when we haven't slept well, when we haven't got good quality sleep, we might find that our work performance, our productivity, our motivation is deeply impacted on. The irony is that a lot of us will forego sleep so that we can become more productive, but that in turn will affect our productivity. So it's like we kind of need to follow God's way. Hello everybody, welcome back to Travel Light. It's your friend Dr. Unoma. I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for tuning in. To my new friends, I am Unoma. I'm a psychiatrist based in Glasgow, Scotland, and I am a lover of Jesus, a follower of the King himself, and I am just so convinced that he loves us so deeply, and that care extends to our hearts, our emotions, our thoughts, and he wants us to thrive in the areas of our mental and emotional health. So here at Travel Light, we're exploring what that looks like. How do we give God access to that space? What does it look like to have the abundant life that he promised us? So welcome and thank you for joining in this journey and this wonderful exploration. For everybody, if you haven't yet, can I ask you to just take a second to subscribe to this channel and make sure your notification bell is on. It means, again, that whenever new content comes out, you're first to know. Share this video with a friend, especially those you think would enjoy and benefit from what we have to say. And also, can you just like this video? Bing! It means that you're telling me you like it. Yay, which is always nice to hear. And also, YouTube knows that you like it, and it means that it can boost me and more people get to hear about what God is doing here at Travel Light, and more people get to benefit. It's a win-win. Yeah. So go ahead and do that. And if you haven't, thank you. Thank you for tuning in again. Really appreciate you. Welcome back. As you know, we have been talking about stress, and in the last episode, we began this three-part series on sleep. And again, I feel like it is a missing ingredient in our culture today because we are so hyper-focused on productivity and hustle. And these things are not bad in itself, but when we neglect the natural rhythms of God, I think we get into trouble. We talked about the science of sleep and its spiritual significance, and I believe it's a marvel to sleep. And again, not just from the physical perspective or from a spiritual perspective, it is a wonderful gift from God that I believe that we should embrace wholeheartedly and give room for. But in this episode, it's going to be a wee bit, not dark, but we're going to be talking about how poor sleep can affect your mental health and your daily functioning. It's important that we know this so that we are being intentional about how we manage our sleep life, all right? So we're going to start with the impact of poor sleep on mental health. Now, we've all been through this, haven't we? When you've slept poorly, you wake up the day after and you're just a mess. You just can't get through the things that you normally would do with your eyes closed. There's a reason for that. When you sleep poorly, it would impact on your attention and your focus. Your cognitive processing is slower, making it harder to concentrate, and you're not able to react as quickly. People who don't sleep very well will suffer from memory issues sometimes because you find it difficult to consolidate new information like I spoke about in the last episode. And when you have information, knowledge that is stored, it gets more difficult to retrieve them. You know what that means when you're tired and that person's name just like is gone, you're blanked out. And also your decision-making ability, your problem-solving ability becomes impaired, and you're more likely to make impulsive judgments, and you might find it difficult to complete more complex tasks. When you're sleep deprived, your brain's ability to process information efficiently and perform well under cognitive demands that are heavier becomes, weakened, and it's not great. Okay, let's talk about your emotions because that's a big one, especially when you've not been sleeping very well. You have a portion in your brain, it's called your prefrontal cortex, and it's amazing for a variety of reasons, one of which being that it is instrumental in regulating emotions. When you don't sleep well, when you don't get quality sleep or enough sleep, your prefrontal cortex doesn't work as well as it should. And this is why you will often feel irritable, volatile and even anxious when you're sleep deprived. Now, this prefrontal cortex is instrumental in suppressing excessive stress responses. Okay, so I spoke to you about the amygdala before. So the amygdala is a portion of your brain that is part of the stress process. is also part of sort of fear and a bit of emotions as well. Um, Basically, the amygdala is particularly sensitive to that sort of fear stimulus. It's part of that process. The prefrontal cortex helps to modulate that so that the amygdala doesn't go crazy. When you're not sleeping quite as well, that regulation is broken. So you might have, or you may find that when you are sleep deprived, you have more of an exaggerated stress response. That is why. So people who are deep sleep deprived become more sensitive to stress and less able to cope with challenges and maybe prone to feeling more overwhelmed by things, even things that they normally wouldn't. Okay. Let's talk about mental health disorders because as a psychiatrist, obviously this is my bread and butter, stuff I deal with all the time. And as a psychiatrist, even as a junior, one of the more common complaints you get is insomnia. People will come with difficulty with falling asleep or staying asleep. So it's something I've had to deal with very often. Now, there is a link between chronic sleep issues and mental health conditions, okay? So with anxiety, for example, when you're sleep deprived, it increases stress and emotional reactivity, again, by disrupting that fear response I spoke about. Uh, Studies have found that poor sleep will intensify anxiety symptoms by heightening fear and stress sensitivity. Yeah. If you're depressed, if you've ever been diagnosed with depression, you will know that insomnia is both a risk factor and a symptom of depression as well. There's a study in 2017 which revealed that people with insomnia are 10 times more likely to develop depression. And treating sleep problems will improve depressive symptoms, which makes sense. Bipolar disorder, which you've probably heard about, where people will experience mood swings, or should I say, will experience either mania or depression and might have manic episodes. Sleep disruptions will often trigger the mood swings. There've been study, at least one I can think of, that showed that even short-term sleep loss can induce mania, and stabilizing sleep will improve mood stability and reduce mood instability. I've seen this with patients. When the sleep is going off, I get concerned because if your sleep is off, you're probably going to get more stress, and round and round and round that vicious cycle goes. So very, very important. And on that note, I've spoken, I believe in the last episode, I spoke to us about the hormones that are particularly affected by sleep and the circadian rhythm. So serotonin and dopamine are neurotransmitters that also can be affected by sleep and disruptions from sleep. These two neurotransmitters influence your mood, they influence stress and cognition as well. I've talked about cortisol and how cortisol basically is influenced by your natural body rhythm. And sleep deprivation will disrupt the balance of these chemicals and will contribute to mood disorders as well. So it's so vital that, again, this natural circadian rhythm is cultivated, isn't disrupted, and we pay attention to, and it's regular. And disruptions in this rhythm have been implicated in mood disorders like depression and bipolar disorder, and also heightened anxiety. I'm going to delve a deep more into the cortisol issue because, I mean, again, unfortunately, cortisol, I'm making it sound like it's this terrible hormone. It is a great hormone. We just don't want tons of it all the time. So again, poor sleep will increase stress and anxiety levels, and that will in turn affect the balance of your stress hormones like cortisol. Again, the circadian rhythm is important. When we are sleep deprived, it can cause your cortisol levels to be higher for longer than normal at nighttime. And instead of it coming down, it will stay high, which will lead to increased stress, and you might find it difficult to relax. Again, this is why it's all about spirit, soul, and body. We're taking ourselves holistically. When there's a prolonged stress response and the cortisol is high for a long period of time, it will keep the body in a state of heightened arousal. And that makes it difficult to manage stress and leads to feelings of anxiety. And over time, your body's stress response becomes overactive, and then you're more anxious, you're more emotionally sensitive as well. We've spoken again about the prefrontal cortex. All of this is part of the system and part of the things that we need to be mindful of when we aren't intentional about managing our sleep the way that we should. So the more stressed you are, the harder it is to sleep. The less sleep you get, the more stress you feel, and on and on and on it goes. Let's talk about what happens when we don't sleep well and how that impacts on our daily functioning. Again, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. Everybody will have experienced this. But again, all of this can be explained by the science behind it. When we haven't slept well, when we haven't got good quality sleep, we might find that our work performance, our productivity, our motivation is deeply impacted on. The irony is that a lot of us will forego sleep so that we can become more productive, but that in turn will affect our productivity. So it's like we kind of need to follow God's way, you know? The fatigue from poor sleep can lead us to become less efficient, and we can make more errors. Simple things that shouldn't happen, simple mistakes, we end up making them. Chronic sleep or chronic poor sleep is linked with physical health problems. So obesity is one, cardiovascular disease is one, and weakened immune function is one. Remember that in the phase of deep sleep, your body is getting rejuvenated, and one of the things that gets reset and restored is your immune system. So sleep is not to be messed with. Your body also needs that period of recovery, as I mentioned already. And when you don't give it to it, if you don't give your body that space to recover, it will essentially malfunction. So this rhythm, again, is built into the system. So we might as well honor it, honor God's way and lean into it, right? And I am sure everyone has dealt with this before when we are sleep deprived and we find that our interpersonal relationships are affected. And my goodness, who else, more than your spouse really gets it, especially when you've had this is the worst part, when you had an argument the night before and you struggle to sleep because you didn't obey Jesus and you let the anger go down. You let the sun go down your anger, right? So you refuse to concede, you refuse to reconcile, and then you can't sleep anyway. You wake up the next morning and it's just rough. Like, it's just crazy. So the counsel to be reconciled with each other is definitely wisdom from God. So all of that irritability and mood swings can really put a strain on relationships, and that's family, friends, and colleagues. And unfortunately, it tends to be people that we love that get the brunt of it. Or, God forbid, if we manage or lead people, then they tend to get that side of us, which is a shame. So rest is a divine gift from God. When we don't honor this beauty that God has given us to enjoy, we are hindering our ability to fully experience and appreciate the rest that God has intended for us. And again, rest is beyond this thing of your physical body. It goes beyond that. It goes to your soul. Sleep is deeply important when it comes to your emotions being regulated, which is amazing. It's crazy at the same time. And your thoughts and your mind and your memory, your cognition, your attention, your focus, all of this. So it goes beyond your physical body. It goes to the realm of your soul, which is something that we are really particular about here at Travelite. So we definitely need to embrace sleep as a necessary component of our well-being. In Matthew 6:34, it says, "Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow." It is so vital that we trust God to provide for us, provide that He will take care of the things of tomorrow. The truth is, a lot of the times sometimes we don't sleep when we ought because we are staying awake trying to make sense of tomorrow's problems mulling over and ruminating over things that we have absolutely no control over, and truthfully we have no business going to. I mentioned about this in previous episodes. Us stepping into the future doesn't belong to us in that way. Yes, we can dream about it, but we don't worry about it. That's God's job, and he doesn't worry, right? So sleep is a part of the gift of today. So as we surrender to God's way, recognizing that as we sleep, we allow God to do his work. He works tremendously in our lives. We are also, in quote, working, but not in the typical sense of it, but God's kind of work. It's his rhythm, it's his cycle, his way. And there is beauty in that. There is glory in that. And there is something to be said about when we are preparing to sleep. And I will speak about this in probably the next episode. A practice of intentionally surrendering our worries to the Lord before we sleep, so that we're preparing ourselves for his work to be done as we veer off into La La Land. So I will again talk to us about ways we can incorporate spiritual practices into our bedtime routines that will foster this sense of expectancy, of calm, and of trust, and allow for God's work to be done as we fall asleep. And the truth is, no matter how difficult it is, we can choose to actively switch off and de-stress and unwind before our heads hit the pillow. Now, I do understand, because I've worked with people. I work with people who have mental illnesses and mental disorders, people who struggle with anxiety and stuff. It is extremely difficult, or can be extremely difficult. But there are ways, right? There's strategies. There are ways that we can involve the Lord in that, so that we become better at letting him in and letting him have his way, have his place, and allowing that rhythm of rest come back into our bodies, our minds, and indeed our spirits. So once again, sleep is a major part of this stress management thing we've been talking about. And it's, again, beyond this physical thing. It goes to much more deeply spiritual thing where we can enjoy rejuvenation of our souls as well, and get to encounter God in ways that we may not when we are waking. When we do not have good sleep, when we do not enjoy good quality sleep, it can really impact on our mental health. When we have poor sleep chronically, that can be a precursor to illness. And if you're already suffering from an illness, that can make your symptoms worse. Poor sleep can also impact on your daily functioning. And yeah, when it's a chronic issue, especially worse. So I'd really like you to, as we round up, reflect on your own sleeping habits. Are there ways that maybe God is asking you to, pay attention, to improve on your sleep, so that your mental well-being and overall well-being is enhanced? Let's think about that. In the next episode, we will be exploring more practical strategies for improving sleep quality and integrating these practices in our daily lives. So if you struggle with sleep, do not worry, because I feel like I'm like, get good sleep, get good sleep, get good sleep. And I'm not telling you quite how to do it, but don't worry, I've got you covered. Next week, we'll be exploring practical strategies for improving your sleep quantity and quality. That's right. In the meantime, though, I'd like to leave you with a final thought. It's one of my favorite Psalms, and it's Psalm 127 and verse 1 to 2. I am going to read from from the TPT version. Again, that's Psalm 127, 1 to 2, and the TPT version. It says, "If God's grace doesn't help the builders, they will labor in vain to build a house. If God's mercy doesn't protect the city, all the sentries will circle it in vain. It really is senseless to work so hard from early morning till late at night, toiling to make a living for fear of not having enough. God can provide for his devoted lovers even while they sleep." Wowie. So let him provide for you while you sleep, while you choose his way and allow that natural rhythm that he's put into the earth to have its place. There's one more thing I haven't spoken about, and I'm really sorry. But so this is the second episode in this series. The last episode, the last episode in the sleep series, the mini series within the bigger series will be next week. And after that, guys, that's the end of the stress series. However, I think to end the series, it'll be really fun for us to come together on a live, yes, and primarily it will be here on YouTube. I'm working to get it on other platforms, but right here on YouTube, we're going to have a party. We're going to be reflecting on things we've learned over the last 8, 9 episodes, 10 episodes. Things we've learned, things we still have questions about. I really want to engage with you guys, and let's build community together. So I'm going to give you more information, but keep that in your diary. And we're going to have that live together. So thank you so much again for joining. I will see you next time. Until then, continue to travel light. See you later. Bye.